What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're going to be having a look at Kuzan. Obviously yesterday we had his full showcase video showcasing him in normal content, but today I wanted to focus on his Pirate Rumble mechanics. Now I definitely think he has more time to shine in the Pirate Rumble game mode compared to normal stuff, just because his kit is basically tailored towards Rumble. They didn't really give him much of a buff in his normal kit, but as we can see in this video, I feel like he is going to be a bit more of a better asset to your squads in Pirate Rumble compared to that normal content. So what does he actually do in Pirate Rumble? Well, the thing is his kit is focused around boosting strength decks and quick units, so that actually opens up with like a lot of different things that you can potentially use him for. Another thing is that he's also a shooter and he's a free spirit, so potentially you could run strength decks quick units that are also shooter and or free spirit, and you can build a team around that. In this video we are predominantly focusing on that free spirit component. However, if I did have some of the other characters like Raizo Shinobu or even that recent Buggy legend that came out during the last treasure map, if you had characters such as that, I do feel like you could build a pretty good shooter team with this guy on it. I feel like he's going to be a pretty good asset to those types of teams. Unfortunately, he doesn't really do amazing stuff in this video, and I will say the bench comes in crazy clutch for this particular team. So while Kuzan on paper, he has some pretty good stuff, I do feel like he is still lacking a little bit. And look, my guy is at level 150. I don't have him limit break expanded, but still at level 150 you would expect some pretty good stuff from him. It's crazy, man, how characters are in Rumble these days. In terms of what he is providing with that Rumble kit though, he does give strength decks and quick allies 7 speed and 7 attack. And then for the first 40 seconds, he provides those characters with a further level 6 speed and level 6 attack. So level 13 speed and attack for the first 40 seconds is quite good. Speed is a bit of a weird gimmick in Pirate Rumble. Like, if you replaced his speed buff with like special CT increase, but like lowered the value, because like, let's be real, level 13 special CT would be a bit excessive, but even if they change that speed for CT in some capacity, I feel like this guy would be way better than what he currently is. The speed component is just not as important in Pirate Rumble compared to some of the other buffs that you can potentially receive, but he can provide some pretty good damage output for the rest of your units, giving up to level 13 for the first 40 seconds. So within the first 40 seconds, you can output a pretty serious amount of damage with this guy. So moving on to our secondary clip here, this is where we're going up against an in team. Now, it's not quite the most optimal in team out there. The bench is quite bad, but the front line is still pretty good, all things considered. It's got some pretty big units and some heavy hitters for sure. But the fact that he is running 5 legends on the front line really limits his capacity for his bench. But in terms of what Kuzan is providing in his Rumble special, which I definitely think is the overall highlight of his kit in Pirate Rumble, one of the major changes that they gave this guy is that now he's only 20 CT for his special, which is pretty crazy actually, from where he actually came from. And his special ability is pretty decent when you read it on paper, providing a large range, 4 times damage. And then he also targets 2 high attack enemies for 100% chance of special bind for 10 seconds. So just breaking that down, like, that's actually quite good, especially if you do have the investments in this guy, like what I do, right? I've got this guy at level 150, and you would think at that capacity with cotton candy, fully rainbowed out, and then you have the 4 times damage in a large range, you would expect that to do some pretty good damage. And I will admit, it's decent, but when you've got some of the other characters in this game, characters that can do damage through defense, or characters that can lower defense and then perform their attacks, those characters just tend to perform better. Unfortunately, I just don't think Kuzan is going to be like a mainstay on a lot of teams. One thing that I could possibly see a really good way of using this guy is potentially throwing him just as a bench unit, considering the fact that his Rumble ability doesn't really provide much. Like, let's be real here, like, it's just going to be providing some attack and speed, right? So I think it's probably a more wise decision to have Kuzan sit on the bench and then he could potentially come in late game, and with a 20 CT, especially when there's 30 seconds or less, where everyone has, you know, the enhanced attack, CT speed up and stuff, and specials just do more damage in those last 30 seconds, that's where I think Kuzan might be a key player, considering a 20 CT with a lot of CT in the last 30 seconds, 4 times damage in a large range. I do think that's probably going to be the key position for him. If his Rumble ability was a little bit more potent or provided more abilities to your squad, then I feel like he'd be a mainstay for the front line. But considering what his overall kit does, there's just not a lot of positions for him to fill on a lot of these teams. As I did say though in the first clip, he could potentially see play in a shooter squad, and I think he might potentially find way in the front line of a shooter squad, considering you have a character like that new treasure map Buggy giving so much CT increase, that in tandem with that Kuzan could actually be a really nice combination. But obviously I'm unable to test that currently, but that might be a really cool way to utilize this Kuzan in the future. This next clip is going to be up against a Dex team, and this is a pretty scary looking team, specifically because of Avalo Pizarro, who can just heavily debuff what we have here. I guess one thing we should probably mention is just what I'm using Kuzan alongside with. So we're going to be using, as I said, a Free Spirit team, and the thing about Kuzan is I wanted to supplement him with, you know, typical mainstay Free Spirit characters. So there are a couple of different options in terms of the Luffy component. I decided to go with the New Year's Luffy because of his potential revive over multiple times, and he does really good damage. He's got a good Rumble kit, so it just felt like a pretty good position. I also wanted to have Nami and Karina because even though they don't receive the buffs from Kuzan, considering dual units are not considered any one type in Pirate Rumble, I just felt like Nami and Karina fit pretty well, considering Nami and Karina's kit is completely rainbow focused, so they give buffs to all characters, so Kuzan will still be receiving buffs from them, but it just means that Kuzan will not be buffing Nami and Karina directly, but still, that character is one of, if not the best, Pirate Rumble character in the game. And then, to supplement that even further, I did want to have some type of way to give myself some special CT increase, particularly in the early points of the game, because I want Kuzan to be launching his special as fast as possible. So I opted to use Rumble Rare Recruit Otama, which is just a really good character in general, buffing fighters, buffing Free Spirit, giving really good healing, honestly. Like, Otama was legit like the first Rumble Rare Recruit to come into One Piece Treasure Cruise, and this character has consistently been one of the best units in the game, which is cool. So a very, very good character. And then in terms of the bench, one thing that I kind of was testing before I started doing some clip recording with this team is the damage definitely can be a problem, because if you really look at the team, the only ways we're doing damage is from Luffy and from Kuzan. You know, we're not getting damage from Otama or Nami Karina, and then the only way Zoro is doing damage is with his counters. So I wanted some way to actually put some pressure on my opponent, so for the bench we opted for some pretty heavy hitters. We've got the new 6+ Kuma, which is one of the best super evolutions that's come out for a while, just in terms of Rumble mechanics. I've also got Inazuma. Inazuma is a fantastic, very underrated Rumble Rare Recruit in my opinion. Another good thing about him, he's Free Spirit, so it works pretty well with this squad, and he's a quick unit, so Kuzan can buff him. And then we've also got Legend Final Tap Kid, because he's another character that can do a lot of damage. One of the things that a lot of people will overlook about this Kuzan is that he is actually a 20 cost character in Pirate Rumble. So that is a really nice thing. So you've got a character that can do all of these mechanics, so he will slide pretty well on people's benches. So that is something to look out for, I would say. And the fact that if you are, you know, aiming to use Kuzan on the front line, the fact that he is 20 cost allows you to have legends on the bench, which can potentially open you up for really good things in terms of late game of Pirate Rumble matches. So overall, very, very interesting unit. And then the final clip of this video is up against an opposing strength team. I would say this is a pretty optimal looking strength team here for sure. Now look, strength teams are not the most difficult to take down, but they can definitely catch you out every once in a while with some pretty crazy stuff, with obviously the film red Gear 5 Luffy just being one of the heaviest damage dealing characters in Pirate Rumble history. But also partnering that with characters such as Kobe, which provides fantastic support. You've got Jack, which can do those health cuts, which allows Luffy to get easy knockouts, but also supplementing all of that with the super evolution of Kuma, an incredibly scary looking team. So either way, with the way that this squad kind of performs, Kuzan does able to get that special first, which quite key is that we actually special bind Jack, which means that we don't have to worry about, you know, dealing with his special ability super quick, so we can at least maintain a little bit of HP, which is quite nice. Unfortunately, Kuma is able to launch his special because of the Kobe support, forcing out Nami and Karina, so we don't get their really key special. See, if hypothetically, if we got the ability of Nami and Karina there without them being forced out, we could have also made this fight go by way faster, being able to reverse the specials of my opponent. Unfortunately, Kuma is just one of the best units in Rumble right now, and he's just an incredibly annoying unit to deal with because of the amount of damage that he can deal, but also a bit of utility that he now provides by knocking out those debuffer style characters. But overall, things go pretty well for us because of the way that we're able to launch our specials. And, you know, with our bench being as potent as it is, even with Luffy coming in here, doing a bunch of damage and, you know, being able to knock out Nami and Karina, we didn't even get to really get their special to launch, which is kind of sad. But the fact that, you know, you've got the New Year's Luffy, which can revive a bunch of times, which really helps you in terms of defense. And then, as I said, having Kuma just really makes things a lot better. And of course, Kuzan does actually buff Kuma because he is a strength unit, so actually works pretty well. But overall, I think Kuzan is just a fine unit. He's not going to be a meta-defining character in Rumble overall, but still a cool character to try and play around with. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one today. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.